Welcome back, everybody. It was roughly 50 years ago where we heard this infamous speech about taking on one of the scourges of the United States of America during a very turbulent time.
This administration today, here and now, declares unconditional war on poverty in America. And I urge this Congress and all Americans to join with me in that effort.
John, people criticize the war on drugs, and that's only been going on for 30 years. This is the war on poverty that's been going on for 50 years. It would seem as though we're losing if we haven't already lost, but others would say we have to continue pressing on. Where are we in this proverbial war where we have spent literally billions upon billions of dollars and still are getting some horrific results?
Well, we have made great strides. Levels of malnutrition are way down. Levels of health are way up. So we have made tremendous strides on the war on poverty. We still have tremendous inequality, which is slightly different. As long as there are big gaps between the rich and the poor, you have inequality. We know how to solve that. Robin Hood knew how to solve that. You take from the rich and you give to the poor, and you can solve inequality.
It doesn't get people elected, though, number one.
It doesn't. But one of the things to remember is we've seen that the countries with more inequality are also the countries that do better socially and do better economically as a whole.
Now, I know, Christina, before we went to break, we were talking about how the role of that and the war on poverty plays into education. And John brings up a good point. There are some things that improved that as a result of the war on poverty, things were put into place that kids still count on to this day. Programs such as Head Start, programs that are there as safety nets, they provide at least a level of stability that may not have been there previously. Does that mean we have to invest more in the war on poverty? Because I could still point to people that I've met throughout Pittsburgh, Chicago, North Carolina, across the country that there are apartments that don't even have running toilets in them in 2015.
Right. So I think this gets back to what John was saying about the state of, well, actually, Paradise, to the state of families. So there are, there are so many children now born into broken families. Many of them to mothers who've never been married, and researchers are really worried about the dramatic increase in the amount of the number of kids, the fraction of kids who are born into these very, very underprivileged families. And so I think the conditions have gotten worse at the family level. And so even if there have been some successes, this is a time where we need, I think more than ever, to do something about education for the youngest kids. And the reason I keep pushing that is again, it's sort of the heart care of economics. It's something we found that we know how to do more cheaply, more effectively. It really works. So seldom are there things that social scientists can find that really work so inexpensively, so well, and we can all agree on it because children haven't done anything wrong yet.
Can I say something also?
Go ahead, Paradise.
And, also, like most of the topics that we've discussed tonight, they exist in a perfect world, and I think we're ignoring the pink elephant in the room too, because we haven't even begun to discuss white supremacy and racism and the roles that they play in the income inequality, particularly in the African American community. You know what I'm saying? Like, even like right around the time that President Obama was being elected, they came to us and had us talk to all the young people about all these green jobs that we're going to get and everything. 8 years later, and still the only green job in my hood is selling weed.
Okay, but let me go to that. For example, we're talking about education. You bring up President Obama. There were policies that were put into place by Republicans before President Obama got into place when it came to opportunity scholarships for kids that are trapped in bad schools, things along those lines that could help shift the income inequality, but yet you see people such as President Obama that repeatedly went after those programs that in essence locked those kids in those bad schools, whether it was in D.C. or other programs.
You're not talking about No Child Left Behind, right?
No, I'm not talking about No Child. I'm talking about the D.C. voucher program. I'm talking about the Department of Education suing the state of Louisiana that had a statewide school voucher program that allowed poor students to be able to go to some of the best schools in Louisiana. That was the Obama administration, first African-American president, that put some of those policies into place. So if we're talking about going after income inequality and we're talking about racism, there still needs to be something that goes at the feet of politicians, including African-American politicians, particularly Democrats, that push these policies unnecessarily.
Because here in Pittsburgh, they play musical schools with the students. You know, and then they keep making the excuse, well, oh, there's not enough students, so we have to move them around to fill the seats in the school. But then you have mass gentrification going on. So it says you keep robbing Peter to pay Paul, and we're always at the bottom of that totem pole.
John,
I think that you're I want to respectfully say you're being distracted by some sideshows here. I think we need to improve the education system. I think we need to improve the healthcare system.
What would be the specific sideshow, though?
Exactly.
Those are sideshows, because what the main topic we're here to talk about today is income inequality, and I think the main problem that we face is an economy that's not firing on all cylinders. And we know that throughout our history, when we've been gearing up for war, or when we've been expanding the economy for other reasons, that's when the people who have been trapped in poverty, in a ghetto, because of discrimination, that's the time they have a chance to rise up. They have a chance to form unions. They have a chance to vote, with the confidence to change policies that'll make us more equal.
And the economy is different now.
And there's a lot of things different, and I actually want to get to that. Some of those differences, because this is getting good now. Some of the differences that are out there that we can't necessarily make the one-to-one comparisons to 20, 30, 50, or 80 years ago. I want to talk about that next here when we come back and talk about income inequality here on Night Talk. Get to the point.